guys, this is Rick coming at you with Weed to No Basis, the podcast for all things cannabis business related. Are you an entrepreneur? Have something you wanted to create, something you wanted to bring to life in the cannabis industry? Maybe you've always wanted to partake in one of the biggest industries in modern day history. This is the podcast to listen to that.
So how does a mother of 8 and a brick and mortar business woman get involved in cannabis? It all started with one of those days. Has anybody in the room had one of those days that you keep reliving, that you'll never forget? I had one of those days, January 9th, 2014, and I remember the day just like it was yesterday. You know, waking up, it's like a regular morning, the dog jumping on the bed and waiting for a good scratch. Headed down to get my morning coffee. It's almost like my drug of choice, and I'll never forget when the phone rang. I was sitting there smelling my coffee, warming my hands, thinking about the weekend that we had planned that was coming up. And all that I heard out of that phone call was stage 4. I have 2 months to live. All of a sudden in that moment, nothing else mattered. I couldn't smell my coffee. The flowers that were on the desk right in front of me almost had no color. And I myself felt dead, although I was very much alive, right? But that moment took me out of my life. And the next words I heard were, they want me to do an aggressive chemo treatment or an aggressive chemo program, and today's going to be my first treatment. Where do you go from there? I don't remember anything else in that day. That loop just keeps playing over and over again. So he did one treatment of chemo and came home and said, I'll never do that again. That chemo is going to kill me faster than the cancer will. And so, of course, I knew we had a timeline, right? We've got 2 months. We've got to do something. What are our other options? And so I dove into researching what else can we do. You know, as a society, we're kind of bred to believe that the guy in the white lab coat has all the answers. And truthfully, they have a lot of answers, but they are all practicing medicine. They're learning right alongside of us how this plant is able to help people with no side effects. Nobody's died. And there are a lot of conditions that are responding well. So in my research, cannabis kept coming up. Now, not to call myself out on the carpet, but I didn't have a whole lot of experience with cannabis. I'd never smoked. I wasn't a partier. I mean, I've got 8 children. That would kind of consume me. And although our window of time was getting shorter and shorter, we opted to try cannabis. And he went on very, very high doses of CBD. And what that did for him was it actually brought him back into the life that he was living. I'm sure that many of you in this room know somebody or have experienced yourself some sort of cancer. And what I own is medical cannabis clinics. So I see patients every day that are literally dying from whatever condition it is that they've been diagnosed with. And when you're diagnosed stage 4, given 2 months to live, the typical result is laying on the couch or in a bed waiting for your time to expire. And that wasn't an option for me. So cannabis for him actually got him back into the life he was living. And rather than having his 2 months to live, he actually lived more than 4.5 years. We didn't lose him until just this last Thanksgiving. But he was able to ride his bike and ski and surf and skateboard, and we went camping and boating, and his 4 years were filled with life and living. And for me, that was a representation of what a miracle this plant is and what CBD can do for us. Now, that also provoked me to open up cannabis clinics. The one that we went into was not a building I'd ever want to take any of my children into, and it was very non-HIPAA compliant, no privacy whatsoever. So we chose to open up clinics that actually treat patients with respect and compassion. What any person and any patient deserves but even more so patients that are living with some debilitating condition. That's been going since April of 2015. We've seen more than 36,000 patients actually get back into the life that they're living. But the journey continued because during the father of my children's treatment, while he's using these products, throughout the 4 years, different brands, we're not brand specific, we didn't have the irrational loyalty, and some of the products he would take and he would just be wreathing in pain from that product burning his throat. Or if he chose capsules, just really, really in the fetal position, struggling with the pain. And in my mind, I'm thinking, gosh, there must be some kind of a strand or strain that he's allergic to. Why would he be having all of these problems with certain products that he's taking? Well, I dove into more research. And what I learned is that hemp is a hyperaccumulator. And what that means is that it's going to absorb everything around it, good, bad, and ugly. And so I actually started finding studies. Back in 1990, there was a study done about hemp and how it could purify the air and the soil. This study was actually done in the land in the area around Chernobyl. And what that hemp plant did was it actually absorbed all the lead, the cadmium, and the nickel that was in that soil. And it rendered that soil useful again. Another study was done in 1991 by German scientists. They wanted to prove this theory that's called phytoremediation, and that basically is the process of a hemp plant absorbing all of the toxins, the chemicals, and the pollution from the soil and the environment from which it's growing. So they planted plants in all the land that surrounded a very large plot of soil that had been contaminated and rendered useless due to sewage sludge. And again, that hemp plant was able to pull out all the toxins, all the heavy metals, and the chemicals that were in that plot of land. More studies have been done. Most recently, hundreds of farmers in Italy began planting hemp on their farmland because their farmlands had been destroyed due to a massive steel plant that was very nearby. Now all of that land is useful, and they're actually cultivating it to harvest good crops. So once you think about all of that and the ability of the hemp plant to purify the air, purify the soil, where does all that stuff go? It goes into the hemp plant, right? What's the most polluted country in the world? That would be China. China's been growing hemp for decades. Why? To purify the air as much as possible. Well, prior to the last almost decade, they've been burning the hemp or using the fibers to create products that they can sell. Well, as soon as the CBD buzz and awareness started being created in the US, what better option than to harvest the hemp that they're growing and cleaning and purifying their country with, extract the oil and ship it off to the US to be put in all of the products that are white labeled. More than 80% of the products on the market today are sourced out of China. To me, that's scary and it's unacceptable. And we've come to a place where the Farm Bill passed in January of this year, creating awareness that it's now legal. We all have heard about the testimonials of people that have experienced great benefits from CBD. So we've seen people go into a gas station. I'm from California and Florida. And in California, you can actually drive into a gas station. You can buy sushi, you can buy your CBD, you can buy, any number of goods. A gas station is not the place to buy sushi, and it's definitely not the place to buy your CBD. We're moving into a space of awareness, and I've walked around and there are plenty of organic products here, which is very important. US grown, very important. You also want to be looking at the extraction process. What we're learning now is that the CBD space is at about $600 million strong. It's projected to grow to more than $22 billion strong by the year 2022. And what we've got is a lot of people that are grabbing the cheapest possible CBD oil, creating a product, slapping their label on it, and what are we going to do with that? I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to feed the medical industry because we're trading one problem for another. Who knows what the Roundup and the other chemicals that are used to grow these products that are non-organic, they're going in our body when we're consuming that oil. So you've got to educate yourself on who's growing your product, who is bottling your product, who is extracting the oils, how are they extracting the oils. These are all things that we're learning, you know. The most profitable way to extract oil from the hemp plant would be to use a chemical. You can use butane, you can use hexane, you can use paint thinner, you can use acetone, you can use moonshine. Now, there's probably a lot of people that enjoy moonshine. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about that, but what if you have to give CBD to your 3-year-old that's seizuring? Are you going to want to put moonshine in your baby's mouth? You're not. Along with acetone, along with paint thinner, I mean, the cancers that are going to come out of those additions to your CBD oil will increase over time unless we get smart about the products that we're using and we're utilizing. It's got to be quality. It's got to be quality. So what I want to say is that we're in a space that is uncharted waters. You're going to have a lot of people bringing in substandard ideas, substandard policies, and people that really have no compassion about your end result. They just want to claim their stake in this CBD market and make as much money as possible. But if you educate yourself and you guard your arm, really, be careful where you buy your product. There was a study done actually just about 3 months ago where an undercover group of people went into 13 different dispensaries. Now, if you're in the medical cannabis space, a dispensary is typically a safe area, a safe zone to buy your products. Well, there was a product bought at each one of these 13 different dispensaries and taken to a third-party lab. Do you know that out of those 13 products that were purchased, only one came even close to having the amount of CBD in the product as was stated on the label? Only one. There were 5 that had no CBD, although on the label it had a pretty great amount. There was one of the products that had more than 10 times the THC level in the product than was stated on the label. And one of those products contained E. coli. This is just a fraction. We're just tipping the iceberg of what can happen with products in this market space. So as a community, I know I read all the labels of the food that I buy, and I think that everybody here is pretty familiar with nutrition labels, right? We've kind of become the community that does. You go to the grocery store and you look at this one and you read, and some of the items look familiar, maybe all of them, depending on where you're at. Then you pick up the next one, and you find which one has the best ingredients for your body and for your condition, right? CBD has got to be the same way. Learn to read your bottles. Learn to ask the questions. What you want to know about is a certificate of analysis for each batch. I've seen companies that come out with a certificate of analysis, and it's a year old. Well, that's not going to do you any good, because what you're going to consume today wasn't harvested a year ago. It was harvested probably in the last 30 to 45 days. So you're going to want to know about a certificate of analysis for each batch. You're going to want to have it organically grown because you don't want to have any Roundup in your product, along with a huge variety of other chemicals. You're going to want to have a product that's vertically integrated so that one person or one group of people, they control the quality from the seed going in the ground all the way through to the seal going on the bottle. That way you know they haven't outsourced to any of these people that probably don't have the same high level of integrity or quality that you're going to want for your product, whether you're taking it yourself or you're giving it to your ailing mother or your grandmother or your child or your sister or brother or yourself. You want to make sure that what you're getting is the absolute best that's available. So I shared with you that I have medical cannabis clinics. This industry is one that's so dear to my heart. Certainly losing the father to my children was life-changing, as you can imagine. But moving forward with these clinics and seeing people every single day and their lives being changed, giving them the proper CBD products is like night and day difference. I see children come into the clinic standing and beating their head against a wall for the entire appointment, 30, 40 minutes, however long they're in there. They come back 6 months later for a follow-up visit, and that child runs around behind the reception counter, sits in one of the chairs and is spinning around, either drawing or playing on their little electronic device. To me, that speaks volumes about this miraculous plant, about a quality product, which brings people back into a quality of life. So I appreciate you listening to me. If anybody's got any questions about quality or what you look for or how you ask, I am happy to help. I'm sitting over here at a table. I'll be walking around. Grab me. I enjoy helping, and I appreciate you guys sitting here and listening to me. Enjoy your afternoon.